we have difficulties accepting things that we're used to otherwise. And one of the big abuses in Yiddishkeit is of the shul. It says in Shulchan Aruch, but I would like this, being that it's after Hanukkah, I'd like to say something from the Kedushas Halevi, from the Yitzchak Mibarditchev. And this is, when I say an important thought, even though that it's wrong, but there's a silver lining to the cloud. The first, my father was a Rav in a small community that the people in that community were chicken farmers. That's what they did for a living. So they used to come to shul wearing their overalls. They came to shul in their work clothes. I would just mention, when I was a bacher, I worked in Yisodot in the summer, and the takana of the moshav is everybody has to learn in the base medrash for a certain amount of time every day, and you're not allowed to come in work clothes. You have to get dressed. It's really a beautiful thing. You see these guys all over the place wearing all kinds of weird stuff, and then there they are an hour later. They're in the base medrash, mechubad. So it's a beautiful thing. I would imagine it's still going on. But actually, in my father's shul, that wasn't what was going on. People came to work, came to davening in their work clothes, and just shul came to shul and looks what's going on. Goes over to my father and says, "Rabbi, you people are Orthodox? This is how you show your respect to God?" And my father, probably was a young man at the time, I think he was like 27. And he starts to explain to them, people have to go to work, and it's not child, the shas, the guy comes the next day, and the guy is getting more and more infuriated. And my father's like, zigzagging the bullets, trying to get away from the guy. And finally he has an inspiration. He says, how do people come to your temple? Our temple? They come 3-piece suits, they got, Chabad. When did I go to your temple? I said, Friday night. I'll make a deal with you. Come here Friday night. The guy came on Friday night. Everybody's in their Shabbos clothing. So he said, this is how we come to shul. During the week, we're in Ibis. But we are mechaber our shul, no less. That's obviously, and more than you are. And the person was pacified. It's a fascinating lesson in that you have to know how, he didn't say anything different than he said before, but you have to sometimes have the siyata d'shmaya to have the right knisa. So that's the story with my father. When Yitzchak Mibarditchev, someone came to his shtibel and some people talking, but let's just call it nonsense, okay? So he said, is that the way you treat the shul? So he said to him, this is a goy, and said, how is it in your temple? Our temple, as the expression goes, as quiet as a church mouse, right? And so the Yitzchak said, how often do people go to Mass? So we go every Sunday. So you go once a week. You guys are guests. Guests always behave. We come here 3 times a day. We live here. That's not a joke. I mean, it is a joke, but it's not a joke. And we're going to see that this has mashmos balo. Okay? This is Tov Kuf Nun Aleph. What they can see us about this, ein noy gehem kalas rosh. You're not allowed to do there. I have no idea how you translate those words. Kalas rosh. No, Kuf Nun Aleph. You do not do their kalas rosh. You probably have a good definition.
Levity. Levity.
That's better. I don't think that levity is good. I think that's too harsh a word. And that's talking about something in particular. Flippant is probably closer to being, you act without thought. That's what it means. Kalas rosh means you're not fettered. You just react. Kegoin, Schoik, Lechisul, the Sicha Betela. Sicha Betela is called Kalas Rosh. Vein Oichle, Veshoisim Behem, V'lo Miskashti Behem, V'lo Metayli Behem, V'lo Yichnasim Behem, V'chama B'nei Achama, V'gshama B'nei Agshama. It is not a shelter. The reason why you go to shul is to go to shul, not to. And I'm putting on my rabbi's garb, and I'm saying this as strongly as I can from my favorite Gemaras, the Gemara in Brachas, about people who call the Beit HaKnesset the Bet Am, community center. This is not the community center. Maybe it should be the center of community, but it's not the community center.
The Gemara in Brachas of the Beit Knesset could talk about the community center.
I don't know what Gemara is for.
Talk about being right Beit Knesset. I'll get into it. Beit Knesset is a right that it's Rovi Hudim. It says it doesn't have to be because the Beit Knesset could be a community center.
Yeah, that's good. That's rather. That's a. But what is rather? But it says the place that the Gemara Brachas says the base Am person that gets all kinds of clothes and says that it's what it is. No, the reason why you come here is not to read what's on sale in the Merkaz. I'm going to say a chiddush over here. I don't know, but that's not to read the walls. All right.
It's interesting. I heard many years ago a shiur from Avigdor Miller.
Okay. What does that say? Much worse than me, that's for sure.
He said something quite different in some respect. He was comparing the situation in America in his time to what it was in Europe. Say, he studied in Europe. He said in Europe, the Beit Knesset in the little villages, it was the center of life. These were his words, more or less what he said. Everyone went to the Beit Knesset, spent no time. The Talmidei Chachamim went to learn. Other people, not quite on that level, went to meet their friends. Other people went to hear the latest news, what was happening in Warsaw or whatever, because it was basically no other.
That was the only community center.
Right. So
right.
We seem to be looking at it in the positive sense.
I want to tell you something. I have unbelievable schus of being my father's son in many ways. But one of the things was that I was brought up on the knee of a shul rabbi. So a lot of things which would be quite frightening and daunting or surprising to other rabbis, to me, are, par for the course. Remember, a Balabas came over to me and he says, I don't know what your father is screaming about people talking during davening. Historically, this has been going on throughout all the years. The Balabas to speak and the Rabbis Scream. What's getting so excited? What wants to answer? What do you have to say?
I'm saying like today.
No, what I mean to say is yes. I want to tell you something. I don't really want to get so involved in this, but there's a lot of philosophy in Brisk. It happens to be on this subject you're talking about. There is a great debate in the great minds of Judaism. But I'll just tell this to you something, a fascinating thought. The Gemara Kedushin says, "In Pagam B'cham Menuvol Zeh Mashchel Beis HaMedrash." If you bump into the Yitzhar, take him into the Beis Medrash. A perfectly understandable Gemara, right? Sit down and learn, and then the Yitzhar will go away. Yitzhar doesn't want to learn, right? So Yitzhar gone, no problem. But Velt asked a question on that. He says, "What do you mean? There's no Yitzhar in the Beis Medrash?" But in the Beis Medrash, you'll find out there's plenty of Lashon Hara, and there's plenty of right. But he feels quite at home, right? Good question. Listen to this answer. This answer is an amazing answer. It's true that there's Yitzhar in the Beis Medrash, but he doesn't look like a noble. The Averis that happened in the Beis Knesset, in the Beis Medrash, are not the Averis which a person would be called a noble for them. It takes on a softer mode. That doesn't. I was not promoting Averis and Shul. That's not the. But yes, there is such a thing. And the Baditchever, the Baditchever saw a guy changing the wheel of his wagon, wearing his talis and tefillin still. So we all understand that that's a bezoy. And the Baditcher said, look, the Eden, even they're changing the wagon and wheel, they're wearing 1,000 tefillin. Right? There's always a silver lining to the cloud. But Rabbi Miller was saying that it's way better for you to be saying Lashon Hara in shul than X. When I was a bocher, I was a very outspoken fellow. Today, I am a very calm and played down fellow. I don't say anything very strong. And I was in Kiryat Arba being menachem over somebody, and the guy asked me if I'd like a ride back to Yerushalayim. He'll get me a ride back to Yerushalayim. This is, we're talking about 1981, I think this was, or 83. And he said, fine. So I got a ride back to Yerushalayim with a guy with the Kippah Suga, which is absolutely fine. I have zero problem with that at all. We get into the car, and my Hebrew wasn't so great at that time. And somehow he got onto the fact that I could speak Yiddish. And the guy started speaking Yiddish. I was like very shocked because usually Kippah Suga guys are. I was brought up in Meishorim. He defected to be a Mizrahi guy, and he was full of frustration, hate, I don't know what you want to call it, against the Haredim. And this is what, I felt like jumping out and be with the Arabs was a much safer place, know where I was. And he asked me the following question. I don't know if you people remember, there used to be this Yetzer Hara which existed in America, which doesn't exist anymore, called television. There used to be this thing where we have, Baruch Hashem, got rid of Yetzer Hara television. We have lemon scent improved versions, Where television is not, that's not the Yetzer Hara of today. We'll just leave it at that, okay? But television was the rage of the time. And he says to me, he said, I'm maskim that television is Gilaraya Shichas Dam Avodah Zarah. This is 1981. I don't know what's going on today. But anyways, I'm maskim, I'm not arguing that. But, how do you know? But Chavetz Chaim writes that Lashon Hara being Mavaza people is worse than all three of them. So what's better? To sit in the Beis Medrash and speak Lashon Hara, or to go watch television? Let me out of here, right? What is the answer to this question?
There's other options besides those two.
No, but this was the question that he asked. He said, the Tachlis is, what do you do in your spare time? So you guys sit in the Beis Medrash and say Lashon Hara, and we watch television. No, that was his. So who's closer to God?
Those that are in the Beis Medrash.
What?
They're at least closer to God.
Television also says Lashon Hara.
On Rishon, you're love. What's the answer? What's the answer to the question?
Someone that's in the Beis Medrash, the possibility is going to be influenced. Maybe you'll hear something that will change it.
Oh.
Someone that's watching television.
100%. I think that's really where the lie. The Beis Medrash isn't a gateway to Averis. The television is. This is scientifically proved. This is not me. This is anybody knows that's the fact. So I said, you want to know which Avera is greater. There are many ways to look at it, and I'll just use this as an example. I told this to him at the time I had this inspiration. 80% of people in Israel, at least, keep Yom Kippur. It's a phenomenal amount of people. What? Fasting. In their minds, I'm not right now getting involved in the technical aspect, but they keep Yom Kippur. It's in their, okay? Which is worse? To be Machal Shabbos or to not keep Yom Kippur? Machal Shabbos.
Yeah.
Which is a bigger goy? The guy who's Machal Shabbos or the guy who doesn't keep Yom Kippur? Does that work? Of course it does. Because one is the Avera as the Avera itself, and one is symbolic of who you are. When I was a kid, from my big kashas on people who went off the derech, this kasha bothered me for many years. It took me a long time till I figured it out. People in Chutz La'aretz that went off the derech, the first thing that went was their tzitzis. The last thing that went was their yarmulke. And I thought they're really stupid. I mean, this is one of the rise that they were stupid because they went off the derech. But it was really stupid because if you live in America, the first thing I'll tell you to get rid of is your yarmulke. I mean, why would you walk around like a sitting duck that you're an Orthodox Jew? It's just a stupid thing to do. Now, your tzitzis, nobody knows. What? Yeah. Well, so what? So what they've been thinking? The answer is they're not. But what they've been thinking anyway. What's the answer to the question? Isn't this what plagued you? This is like one thing that bothered me very much. Gil, what do you have to say?
Kippah still a symbolic gesture. You're still Jewish.
Right.
You take that off. That's it.
That's right.
That's
That's right. So, but which is a bigger aveira? No, it's not. You're just not being kind of. Are you kind of a mitzvah wearing a yarmulke? What? Well, so the question of identity and symbolism, chazer treif. You know what chazer treif is? You know what chazer treif is? It's sachakol sensationalism. There is no bigger isser to eat chazer than to eat meat that wasn't shechted.
Just a symbolic thing.
Right. So which is worse? So which is worse?
It's symbolically high.
Correct. So when you're talking about which aveira is worse, what are you talking about? The person that's an ashrei yeshiv esacha and does aveiras, or the person that's in the pool hall? I don't know, whatever it would be, nice benign place, right?
I think one difference might put the balance in the other way. If a person that's like sitting in the base midrash all the time and people see him as a fun person, he's doing various things that are widely recognized as veilers.
People don't sit in the base medrash and do a widely recognized averas. People do averas in the base medrash where people think that they're not averas. In other words, they sit in the base medrash and they talk during Chazar Sashats, right? I'm not a frummy. You don't expect me to be quiet during Chazar Sashats, right? Right? That's right. What are they doing in the base medrash? People don't do manovel in the base medrash. And not only that, whenever they speak Lashon Hara, it's only a mitzvah. It's a klal. It's always. That's
unfortunately it's not always the case.
I'm aware of that. But if you ask them, they'll explain it to you in triplicate, right? That's just the way it is. So, but I will get too off the subject. But the nakuda over here is really an important nakuda that we are at home in shul, and that is a challenge. In other words, the guy who is the shomer in Buckingham Palace is never allowed to let up in the way they act that this is where he works. He always has to be in the palace. So, right? It's pashut, right? I was never there. But I'm sure that's the way it is. All right. So you're not allowed to do all of these things which are not in line with what a shul is supposed to be. The Talmidei Chacham and Talmideihem Mutar Lechem Olishus B'hem Midochak, and Talmidei Chachamim and their Talmidim are allowed to eat their Midochak. V'yesh Omrim b'beis Medrash Afilu Shaloi Midochak Shari. Ve'ein Mechashvim B'hem Cheshbonos. I would like to tell you something. I just want to blow your brains away. Just with the thought. There is a chuva in Tzitz Eliezer, which discusses in the cheder class if you're allowed to learn simple mathematics, because the cheder classroom is a base medrash, and a lot of times what happens is, so you could say, well, they always learn limud echol over there, so it's always like that, so that's fine. But what happens is many times you have institutions that have many grades, and the younger kids need a classrooms, and now the Beis Medrash Bachim who don't have limudei chol are not in that room, so they move them into that room, and they want to teach them math, 2 + 2 = 4. Nothing kosher stuff. No, they're not discussing over here something which is problematic. Not pushing you to do it. There's a long chuva on the subject. All right.
How about all the cheshbonot you have in different gemaras, like
We will
in
see.
Yavamas and so on?
We will see. That is learning. The question whether Bezdin is allowed to be machashiv the moyed is a halacha. If you're allowed to do that in shul. You didn't know? Okay. So it's a pamalishon. Okay. LMK mitzvahs can go kupa shel tzedakah pigin shvuyim. Ve'ein maspidim bohem. You're not allowed to make a hesped in them. Ellen Kenya hesped le'echad migdeli ha'ir. Shekol b'nei ir miskabtzin uboyim laspidoi. And then it's mutter for a fantastically interesting reason. We'll see in a minute. If you have to go into shul because you have to call somebody out, you go in and you don't just ignore. Now, when I was preparing this halacha, I was trying to figure out how do I explain this halacha. I think that everybody over here is old enough to understand what I'm talking about. If the people here would be 20 years younger, they probably wouldn't know what I'm talking about. But if your child comes home and just walks past you, doesn't say hello, goes into their room, you have a job to explain to him that that's no way to behave. Whether you will do that or not, I leave that to your conscience. But that's your job to do, I'm telling you right now, that's your job to do. Why? It's not his house. You're not a wallflower. There's property derech. Do I need to explain this, or just move on? Okay, let's move on. How do you come into Hashem's house and not say hello? Where do you think you are? Just might as well what it says over here. All right. Yomar do Ashmo v'achar kach yikre'eno kedei shleimir ki hu nichnas letzorcho. I don't come into shul for my purposes. V'meni yadeya lo likros lo lishnos. Yomer lecha matinoikes karli pasuk shata karaboy. Just say something for me. Yisher ba'at v'achach yetzei. Shayeshiva b'hem mitzvah. Shanemar ashrei yesher v'sach. I would like to share with you a thought, which is really a beautiful thought, and I'm going to leave it open-ended. I'm not going to answer my question. The Gemara in Saita says about the Berurah, if I'm not mistaken, that he learned all kinds of things from different people. And he said, and I learned from a lady, the Indian of Achon Mitzvah, I forgot exactly what it calls it, they're preparing for Mitzvah. He said, this lady used to come to shul to my shul. And I said to her, Biti, Ein Beis HaKnesset B'Shulchan Aruch? And she said, there is, but there's Schar Alicha. So I learned Schar Alicha from this lady. Very nice. So the Ben Yehoyada asks, he says, I understand. He didn't know that a person gets Schar for Achana for Mitzvahs. What did he learn from her? This is something that's internationally, no, we all know that you get schar for being involved. So Ben Mishna answers a fascinating answer. He said, there's a mitzvah of halich l'beis HaKnesses, which is a move on. And there's another mitzvah, the halacha which it says here, in this if, of yeshivas beis HaKnesses. I have a choice. I could walk 5 minutes to shul and sit for 2 minutes. I could walk 2 minutes to shul and sit for 5. Which should I do? What? Sit for 5. And when he said what he learned from this lady is the what he learned from this lady? That the mitzvah of halicha l'beis HaKnesses is greater than the mitzvah of yeshivas beis HaKnesses. He doesn't say a husband. I have a husband for that also. But it's a fascinating idea. But there's a mitzvah of sitting in shul. You're in a Makom Kodesh. It will have an effect on you. It will have an effect on you. All right. Let's just see the Mishnah Berurah. All right. Fine. Sicha b'teila. Hainu afilo sicha schulin shila tzarech parnasa. The bachut shari. In other words, when the guy, there's a Jewish joke. These all the Jewish jokes are coming out in this class, and this is a shiur. I apologize, but there's a guy that comes to shul Friday night and says, "You look concerned. Say, I have to sell my car." So the guy says, "What kind of car do you have?" Mishna Shabbos Gretz. Okay, you all know. You guys buy that one? anyways, so Sicha B'Teila, we're talking about something that's not Levatol. You're talking to sell the car, right? It's really going to happen. But this is not. Batola means what? Waste. Over a bottle. I have this mushal, which I say all the time. A person earns $100 an hour. It's a nice salary. Okay. Somebody tells him, I'm willing to offer you $150 an hour doing the same work in my firm. He says, I'm comfortable where I am. He's wasting his time. You know why? Because he could be doing better. Yesterday, $100 an hour was utilizing your time well. But what you could do better, Bittul Zman. But the word Batola means negligible. It's not doing what it's supposed to be doing.
Basically, words that go nowhere. It's not words that selling a car are not words that go nowhere.
But biyachas to what? So we're saying we're not speaking about it. It's not going nowhere. Even if you talk about parnosa, that's what it means. Batola means right. What's supposed to be going on?
Speak about Panosa with the bit of Zaman.
What?
Speak about Panosa, someone finding someone else a job in the shoe.
That's called chesed.
Right.
That's not parnosa.
So I remember reading some history book, like in Europe, they used to have a shiur of the tailors, a shiur of the shoemakers, and
That's
so
the
on.
people they work together. They stayed there. Birds of a feather flock together.
Wasn't they also trying to help each other out? And also,
That's your imagined that.
yeah, that's what I'm not sure because I didn't live at that time.
I on the contrary, I marveled at that because I would have thought that I was never in one of those shuls, but I would have thought that there would be an unbelievable amount of jealousy and strife between them. What? There was between everybody. I don't know if there was more between them. There was, but Lamaisa, they had much in common to share. And that's what was all right. Ubazar HaKodesh Parshas Vayakel. Hiflik Bo Begodol Avon Hazeh. V'kol sheken sheish lizov beis HaKnesses shemeresh me'avon diburim asurim yigol noshen hara rechila machlokes u'ktotos. Ki milvad she'er avonis chalom yoy od yigol avon yoseh b'makom kodesh ki hu mezalzel b'kovod hashchina. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is right here listening, and you are ignoring him. But it's when a person does it in public, so usually people don't have the gumption to tell the person to stop doing that avera, and the avera gets done barabim, becomes a chil Hashem barabim. You tigra the damli the dika the damli with chila with hutzchala alvon sheish anashim masof yislaktu yischava chavurus chavurus, and we get into a real mess. Well, but I say no rabbim. Boy mizek have a problem with the cherpos gidufim abonos polim barabim. The gampom rabbis b'nei hasefer Torah sheze gam ken avochovim b'nei atzmoi ki afila mavaz chaver b'nei kam chochom chazal shu apikoris ve'eno chelik olim abok kol shken mavaz chaver b'nei sefer Torah u'kovod hashchina. U'kemoshe kos kein ze b'shuas marival. Okay, v'nei hakois u'mashinas v'godol chil ha'shamayim ben umos u'migorim kol zeh In lo harishon shehischa ba'averet tchila bevali la'asud lo v'yito schar k'neged kulam v'alkein hayoreg v'chorid v'Hashem yosetom emo v'libo lezeh shelo leda b'shum dvar v'tel v'esaknes v'esaminesh v'ha'mokom hazeh yeh miyuchad etzlo rak l'ter v'tchila. I think that if we can do that, we're doing great. Not, you're not allowed to do anything over there. You can go somewhere else. As I would like to say over in English what I just said. When I have to go in, I could allow myself the excuse slip of saying a pasuk. Why? Because really I'm going in the tzarech. And really I'm allowed to go in the tzarech if I have a reason I have to go there. That's not a mizalzel. But how could you come in without saying hello to your parents? So maybe you're allowed to say something. But imagine if
And you're not using it, saving from something else, you need to go and stop.
then you're right. You're really going in stum, but you're adding on. Right. But when I have the choice of using something else, and I decide to use the basic classes, so that itself is also. Because what's the reason that you're there? Convenient. Let's say I'm right now going to making up a story. Person has a choice. He wants to finish something that some conversation that he had with somebody, and he says, really, I'm about to go home. I'm going to go home. I'm going to take this guy to my house. I'm going to have to turn the air conditioner on, and I'm going to have to be inside of my house. So let's stay here in shul and benefit from the shul. Did I make up a story that's like a strange story? What?
Not quite.
What?
Yes.
Okay, so just say this. I just leave it as a question, right?
Here is not coming to show.
Oh, so that's true. But when the person says, I can meet you here, I can meet you there, let's meet here, right? But this is so when you have a choice of where to meet somebody, the shul's not the place to meet him. And I want to tell you something. If you meet the person in shul, your shul will never be the same. You ruined your shul. All right. Anyways.
So would it be better perhaps if the people that come into the shul could declare, would perhaps wait outside and approach people when they come out to the shul instead of circulating around the shul to collect?
I have great difficulty in answering this question because to answer this question, you have to take many things into account. I will start off with the words of the Chafetz Chaim. Before I say the words of Chafetz Chaim, we'll say something from Rabbis Scream. We'll try to get in perspective.
I'm just trying to correct.
I was going to tell you something. The Rabbis Scream was, I heard this less than an hour after it happened on a Sunday morning at about 6 o'clock. Rabbis Scream was in Monsey, and he had a meeting with 200 big Virim or something like that, and they were able to ask anything they wanted. So one of the Virim asked him, he said, we're willing to give all that stuff up, but this incessant hounding of us that we have no life, how do we deal with that? So Baron Leib was an extremely shrewd and I would say difficult person. He really said it like you can't say it worse than he said it. He went on to explain the miracle of the amount of wealth that the Jews amassed after the Second World War. And he said all this HaKadosh Baruch Hu did so that we should be able to rebuild the Maaseh of Torah and Chesed that needed to be done. And you people are the Gaboyim. Anybody who finds it too difficult, you can be replaced. For some reason, no one anymore complained. Now, the Chavetz Chaim was asked, there was a community that said they're having instead of all the going around and get frozen and everything like that, and the people are hard to get, we're gonna have somebody make a collection and we'll give the aniyim money. They don't have to come around. So that's Chavetz Chaim. Is it a good idea or not? He said it's not a new idea. This is how Stone started. I didn't make that up. Chavetz Chaim said. Now, the person who comes around when you're in shul, will you give him more or less than when you're on your way out the door? We've discussed this. Right, we've discussed this.
I think personally, I think I'd give the same amount really, because
That's not you.
I don't know. Maybe he would.
yeah,
Maybe he would.
I just think
Ask the guys who collect.
yeah,
They'll tell you.
So, but I mean, it's okay in terms of kavod and bank.
Go with the
That's
Shiur
not an
already.
issue.
So no, I didn't say that.
Uh-huh.
So now we have a question to raise more money for tzedakah, or to have more cover-based classes. Now let's declare. There was a great hitkadfiyut on the following question about 10 years ago. Does a Rosh Kollel have a right to tell a ani who comes collecting during Seder, get out of here, you're on Rechel learning? Okay, now they're on, let's say they're on salary, if you want to use that term. You don't go into business and start collecting, do you?
Manchester people do that.
No. They go to the owner of the company.
Right, yeah,
They don't
yeah.
go from cubicle to cubicle. Right? You want to go and ask the rabbi for money? That's a different question. If I thought going around, what's going on over here? Because it's easier for this guy to collect from you here collectively than to go to your houses. So therefore, and this is a question which I'm not going to get involved in it. The Menachem Daily so wrote on this. You can research it on your own. But that's a different question. But the etzem, the idea of collecting tzedakah, is what's supposed to be done in shul. I think that we even said it over here. Cheshbon shel mitzvah. Tzedakah. I think we just said that. Didn't we just say that?
Yeah.
What? We just said it, right? So now that's not a dover shel chol. That's a dover shel mitzvah. But now what happens is when the part of the problem is, well, I'm trying to download kavod. This guy's trying to collect from me. Which is going to go? So these are issues. These are issues, and these have to be worked out. But I just pointed out, it's not such an easy, the right and the wrong, which is the best way. It's not so simple.
I don't know if I'm doing right, but when I see people coming around, if I notice like when these Kriyas Torah, the person stands and stops and listens to Kriyas Torah and stops collecting, then I'll give him more than I would if he just continues going round.
I just want to ask you a question. I'll just borrow the words of some Gentile. Mi sam ata sar v'shoifet aleinu.
We had this.
One second. Now, that person already heard Kriyas Torah or not?
Does that make a difference?
I asked you a question. Did he or didn't he?
No way, no.
Okay, well, why don't you assume that he did? You worried about his Kriyas Torah or your Kriyas Torah? What's the difference? It's your Kriyas Torah or your Birchas Kriyas Shema? The Mishna Berurah we learned here. The problem is that people don't remember, but we learned here in this shiur about the subject where the Mishna Berurah complains about those who go around collecting during davening at one place, and he doesn't collect and discuss them going about giving stuff at a different place. The Mishna Berurah deplores those who collect money during davening because giving stuff in the davening is mafia kavana. And the Mishna Berurah someplace else, he says by Baruch David, he says there are places that person should give, and this question was discussed here at great length, probably about 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, I don't know. It was like 30 some other ago, just a long time ago. But I was here when we learned it. At least I know I was here. So there's a question. Okay, but everything has to be, again, I'm just telling you, I'm not saying anything negative. You have your preconceived notions of what's right, wrong, and unacceptable. It doesn't mean that those were legislated by the Torah and Har Sinai. I didn't say you don't have a right to have an opinion, but that's your opinion. It's not a halachic opinion. It's not based on.
Person has a limited amount to give.
That's a different question.
Criterion to apply to the market.
I would say that the important thing to figure out is what is he collecting for? For how is he collecting it? You want your dollar to go to a better cause, to a better collector?
I just get the feeling
Just answer my question first.
obviously to better cause.
Okay.
I mean, you can't sort of start questioning people in the middle of doubting what you're coming around for. If you put a letter in front of you, no time to read it.
Okay. All right. So, you're right. We have to do what we do. All right. I guess we'll stop over here.